Hello, Lab Rats. This is Jessica.
And this is Kendra, and you're listening to
Lucid Lab. We are back for Lab Reports number 12.
A dozen. Wow.
A dozen. It feels like we've done way more than that.
I agree. I feel like we do these more often than we actually do. Yeah. We're at like every 6 weeks right now, but I feel like they come up fast.
Yeah.
Every time I'm like, oh shit, we got to start looking through stories and figure this out.
I think that it's because we're typically sometimes bunching our recording together to like fit our schedules. True. And you're traveling and stuff like that. So
yeah,
they do sometimes come up sooner than we're expecting them.
Well, we had a fun weekend because we got to celebrate Jessica's birthday.
Yeah, the big 39.
Oh, you're getting so close.
So old.
Breaking the 40s.
I know. I felt like 39 was more important than 40 for some reason this year. And I think it's because, and I don't want to jinx myself, but when I was growing up, I never thought I was going to make it to 40. I can't explain why, but I was young and there was just this thing within me that was like 40's like my deadline.
Uh-oh. Okay, we're going to watch you close. Be careful on your trip to the ocean.
I know.
In February.
We'll see.
It's also like when you're young, 40 seems so old.
I know it does.
And now I'm 44 and it's like, no, that's not old at all. I still have lots of time left, I hope.
I know. We were sitting there. We went to this like country bar place or whatever. Mm-hmm. And it was fun. And it was weird though, because this young guy came up and was like, do you want to dance?
Yeah, he was pretty brave. He walked up to a table of 4 women that were much older than him. Like he was probably, I'm guessing, 25 or less.
Yeah.
And he just walked up to the table and said, would one of you ladies like to dance? And we're all just staring at each other like...
Mm-mm. But the whole time he's staring directly at my face and directly in my eyes. And I'm like, stop looking at me. And then who was it? It was a singer was like, oh, it's her birthday. Buy her a shot.
Yes.
And then this random lady comes and brings me a shot.
Yeah, that was nice.
It was nice, but then I realized it was attached to that guy. She went and sat with him later, and I was like, oh.
But
okay.
She wasn't with him when she bought you the shot. She was actually there by herself at the corner of the bar the whole time. I think because that group was getting really drunk. The guy who came over to us, he stood right next to me, and he was reeking of alcohol.
I was never that close.
Like when he said, do you want to dance? I was like, fuck no. Like he smelled like alcohol and cigarettes. And then when I looked down.
Oh my God, I didn't smell that.
I looked down and he was wearing flip-flops.
I didn't see that until he was dancing with a different girl. And granted, guys, it was like 10 degrees outside.
It was not flip-flop weather.
Snow. It was not flip-flop weather.
I think the guy was pretty wasted is my guess. And I think they invited that lady over because she was by herself and they were wasted. So she joined their group later. I don't think she went there with them. So I think you're safe. You didn't get roofied that we know of.
Were you there when he came up to me the second time? Oh, no, it wasn't. It was just me, Elizabeth, and our other friend.
Yeah,
you were gone.
Left.
And they were up doing something. And
you were by yourself?
Yeah, he came up to me when I was sitting by myself. And I was like, no, I do not want to.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is he just stands there and doesn't leave. And I'm like, I already gave you an answer.
And then you're like, this is awkward.
I was talking to you or someone later and I was like, I wish he asked me if I was in a relationship so I could have told him I was a lesbian so he could leave me alone.
And we told you, I think we had this conversation before this even happened. You were like, if guys ever hit on me again, I'm just going to say I date women. And I was like, you have to be careful because some men, they see that as a challenge and it doesn't make them go away. Because then they're like, I can change you. I'm the one guy that you'll want. Like that would ever happen.
No.
So guys, if you ask a lady, if you get the courage to come over and ask somebody to dance and they say no, leave. Because then we felt like, I remember all of us just sitting there awkwardly and he was just standing at the table. We were going to have to get mean for him to leave.
And we were trying to be nice.
We were very nice. We turned him down in a nice way. We were just like, I said, oh, I'm wearing heels. I think Elizabeth said, I don't know how to country dance.
I just said, I don't want to. When he came up to me the second time, I had to give him 5 different explanations for him to leave my table. There was like a couple next to me and they were like watching the whole interaction. And I'm like, what do I have to say to get you to leave without being an asshole? Like,
no is no.
You're
no
pushing,
means no.
You're pushing us to be that way. And then when we do become the bitch, then you have something shitty to say to us.
And then women are not appreciative and women are intimidating, blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, most of us are nice, but we have limits. And if we said no earlier in the night, coming back later, I don't know. I think guys think if you drink more, maybe you'll change your mind. But Probably not.
No.
If we're interested in a guy, the first time you ask, we'll probably dance with you.
Yeah.
It's not going to change. I've never been a girl who changes like her standards when I drink.
No. And it was funny because when you did leave, I went outside to talk to my daughter on the phone and I missed the
Star Spangled Banner.
Yeah. I came in at the last second and I'm like, I'm just going to hide back here for a second. And then I saw the text message from Elizabeth later and you're like, Kendra, good thing you missed this because I think all these people are Trumpers.
And I was like, thank God I left when I did.
And I was like, I wasn't there.
I could not have hidden my disdain because it's been a tough week. We're coming off of right when the TikTok ban trial happened. Mm-hmm. Also the LA fires.
Yeah.
And it was our first week back after holiday break, like full week of work and school with our kids. So we were there that night just wanting to let loose and relax. And I'm not drinking right now. I'm doing a dry January, which is probably stupid right now, but I'm sticking to it. So we just wanted to have fun, hang out as a group of girls. And it was a good time.
Yeah, it was.
But yeah, the guy coming over was weird. The Star Spangled Banner would have ruined the vibe too. So I'm glad you were outside and I was gone. But something that was really cool was the line dancing.
Yeah, it's fun watching everybody.
And I remember saying that I wanted to learn some of that. Like I'm inspired because there was like this one couple that knew every single line dance and they were just up there.
Yeah,
straight.
they were. And they were there when we left too, which was
Still line
a couple
dancing
hours later. Yeah. They never left. They left once to go drink water at a table like 20 feet away. And then they immediately came back.
So they were absolutely there just to line dance all night.
Absolutely.
It's like their workout.
Yeah.
Well, they were good.
Yeah, they were good.
Anyways, I'm inspired.
And I could tell that some of the people there were actually there teaching. They were there specifically to teach people.
Oh,
so
cool.
We don't have a lot of places like that here.
No.
When it opened, it became very popular.
Yeah.
This particular place.
Yeah, it was a good time.
Yeah. Anyway, that was a long
Intro.
jab. We're going to get started with something that I thought would be a little neat to do just because it's closer to home. It's just a few minutes from me, but it's a famous haunted road.
Ooh.
I think we've mentioned this once, maybe in a little snippet. I can't remember, but I'm talking about Riverdale Road in Thornton, Colorado.
It's right down the road from where we're recording right now.
Yeah.
I think I came across this when I was looking up haunted places for Colorado, and I don't know much about it, but you do because you've lived in the Thornton kind of area.
For a while.
I'm curious to hear more.
Riverdale Road is 11 miles long and it stretches between Thornton and Brighton and is known as one of the most haunted roads in America. Supposedly.
Oh, yeah. You know, we don't believe any of that shit anymore.
Thornton is one of Denver's largest suburbs. The road passes through both busy intersections and more rural areas. In many areas, it seems like kind of a normal city street, but in the more rural areas, it does give you this kind of uneasy feeling, especially at night.
Yeah.
It's very dark in some spots. Portions have no streetlights.
I don't like that.
Parts of the road wind and curve under very old trees, which is what I like.
It's pretty during the day, maybe.
But it can be spooky at night. The speed limit is 30 for a good reason because it's pretty dangerous at higher speeds with the twists and the turns. And also it's one way, I think, for a lot of the road, like either way. So there's not a lot of space. Like
Right.
I get anxiety driving that street in those particular areas because even 30 sometimes I'm like, why does it feel like I'm going 50?
Yeah, some of those sharp curves, they're almost like turning left all the way.
In the daytime, I do love it. It makes me feel like I'm not in the city. It's kind of part of that area of Thornton where you do feel like you're going into the mountains or something, even though it's not. You're actually going towards the plains.
Opposite. Yeah.
Yeah. But this road is often referred to as the gates of hell.
That doesn't sound nice.
I'll get into why it's called that, but it's steeped in dark history and paranormal legends that have captivated ghost hunters and thrill seekers for years. The area surrounding the road has a grim past and why many believe it is haunted today. That and the tragedies that have happened along it in more modern times.
Okay.
First, it is said to have been the site of a Native American burial ground.
Isn't everywhere
I know.
that is haunted.
Where along the route this is, I'm not sure. But anytime we mess with indigenous burial grounds, there's a chance that shit's going to go down because we never let anyone rest in peace.
No.
And there are consequences. The South Platte River follows Riverdale Road. It is not like directly butted up against it, but there are parts that are closer to it. The Apache utilized this river area until about 1700. From 1700 to 1750, it was the Utes. Then the Comanche were in the area until 1820. And there's also evidence that the Arapaho and Cheyenne moved along the river during the 19th century until settlers, quote, discovered this pristine area in the mid 1800s. In this area, where we have some very old cottonwood trees, it's also said that there was lynching of runaway slaves. I tried to find evidence of lynchings specific to this stretch of land, but I actually couldn't. We have an organization here called the Colorado Lynching Memorial Project that works to document the history of racial terror lynching, and they didn't have any pinpoints on their map in this area, but that doesn't mean it didn't happen.
No, it probably happened everywhere in the U.S., to be honest.
It was the Wild West. There's tons of stuff that happened that we don't have evidence for. And there's also an old dairy farm that is said to have a specific tree that they used to hang women accused of witchcraft.
Oh, shit.
Again, no evidence for it. But back then, this was a wide open space that was far from Denver.
Right. And like you said, Wild West.
Yeah.
Who knows what happened out there?
Who knows? A big lure to this road is the legend of a mansion that burned down along with the family inside it. This is the Wolpert mansion that used to be located at 9190 Riverdale Road. That's not there anymore. Like if you look up the address, it's just going to throw you right in the middle of an intersection.
Okay.
And it really wasn't like a mansion. It had 9 bedrooms, but small bedrooms. It was 2 stories, but at the time it was a very large home compared to everything else that was being built. And ironically, Riverdale Road today is a place for mansions.
Okay.
It's an interesting street. In parts, you'll see farmland, some residential areas. There's like a large golf course. It's where Adams County Regional Park is, which is where I go to sit by the water and reflect a lot. The Adams County Fairground is off this road. It's also where we have one of the more popular corn mazes during spooky season, the Haunted Field of Screams.
That might actually be haunted.
Maybe. But kind of nestled up on a hill is this like random collection of like super rich folk with like gated off mansions. It's across from the golf course. And I mean big homes. Like you see them and you're like, why?
Why do you need a house that big unless you have 20 children?
I always wonder who lives in them. I'm pretty sure one of our baseball players does. But it is just this weird road that you can drive and you see like all tax brackets.
Yeah.
Like I think even once you get down past 104th, it's a bunch of trailer park homes. So it's just this interesting collection. Anyway, back to this mansion. It ties back to a man named David Wolpert. David Wolpert came to Colorado in 1859. The only information I could find was that he was born in Ohio in 1883, which obviously doesn't make sense if he came here in 1859.
Right.
But it was like this official document that I found in an archive, so I think it was just a typo because there's a lot about him here in Colorado after that. Before coming here, he lived in Iowa and Illinois for a short time. He was lured here, as many others, during the gold rush. He traveled with 16 men. They first went to New Mexico by way of the Santa Fe Trail, and then they came up here and visited Pikes Peak, South Park, and the Fairplay Breckenridge area in search for gold. I guess they had some issues with some indigenous people up there, and it caused them all to split up, and that's how he ended up in the Denver area. And then he preempted a piece of land here in Thornton, even though it wasn't yet Thornton. I don't think Thornton was called Thornton until like 100 years later.
Okay.
This is where the house would eventually be built and would eventually have the address of 9190 Riverdale Road. He turned it into farmland and was pretty successful at that. And one interesting note, Wolpert is also the reason why we have the Clayton block on Larimer Square downtown, or Larimer Street downtown.
I don't know that.
It's by my old college down there. I act like it's a small college. It's the UCD, but it's near there. And I have no information on that other than he's literally credited for building that
block.
block.
The block. Okay.
But he just took this bit of land, well, a big bit of land, and called it his. He built his home in 1864, but actually wouldn't receive a patent on the property from the U.S. government until the end of 1869. And this land totaled 145 acres on both the east and west sides of Riverdale Road.
The audacity of these people, they just showed up back then and started building.
Yeah, he's like, this is mine.
Nobody's dealing with it. Why not?
Right by a river. It's perfect. He quickly made his wealth. That same year he built the home, he married Catherine Henderson, whose family the town of Henderson is named after.
Oh, so they were wealthy.
Rich people. They ended up having a son, David, and two daughters, Lucille and Mary. One of the daughters and the son were born deaf mutes.
Oh,
which is sad.
That is.
They lived in the home for almost 50 years until his death in 1909. He's actually buried at the Riverside Cemetery. Catherine would stay in the home for another few years before selling it to another person. And overall, the property switched hands 8 times after that until it burned down.
Oh, okay.
So this isn't about them.
They were just the ones that built it.
And the history of this place is pretty interesting. And it's actually kind of sad that it burned down.
Mm.
At some point, it was a drover's inn for cowboys. It was a gambling den in the 1920s. It was a house of prostitution at one point.
Lots of history.
And a racehorse ranch.
Oh.
It's said that one owner became so drunk he lost the mansion in a card game.
That's probably true back then.
The last owner was a development company, BBB Associates, and all I can think of is the Better Business Bureau. I'm like, what are you doing? Buying land. But at the time it burned down, it was actually being leased out. So there were some tenants living there. First, it was the large chicken coop outside that burned down in May of 1975. At the time, the fire department said that the house was also a fire hazard, and the health department ordered the owners to dismiss the tenants.
Oh, so they knew. Probably old wiring.
I mean, it's old.
It needed updated and they didn't want to spend the money.
It's like 110 years old at this point.
Yeah, you have to update that stuff. Codes change.
I'm not sure what happened, but it became this place of vandalism. And by November of 1975, at approximately 1 o'clock in the morning, the house burned down.
Okay.
I'm not sure how this all turned into a story about a family passing away inside the home, but it did. I found no evidence of that. But you know how these things go. These legends, they take on a mind of their own.
Yep.
But as the legend goes, a man who was the last tenant was going insane there.
Oh, okay.
Possessed by a demon or something, and he was doing witchcraft stuff in the chicken house.
For sure.
Which I guess part of it is like underground, and that's where he was doing
satanic rituals.
Exactly. He was summoning evil spirits and demonic entities, and one of these rituals went crazy and it burned it down. And then he eventually turned on his own family, murdered them all, and burned down the home to cover the evidence, and he was never to be seen again.
But that didn't happen.
There's nothing in records that say it happened. Anyway.
Because he's so good at covering his tracks.
I know.
He was protected by the demon he summoned. That's got to be the explanation.
It's the only explanation. Or not, because after looking into this property a bit more, I think the home was just burnt down intentionally, but not for that reason.
For insurance?
Close.
Okay.
In January of that year, there was a story published in the Rocky Mountain News titled Drive to Save Old Home Started. And it was a couple in the area that was pushing to have the home preserved by the Adams County Historical Society.
Okay.
There was word that this development company wanted to turn this entire area into a new city called Washington City.
Okay.
It was 145 acres, and the house was the only thing standing in their way.
Mm-hmm.
Well, not the only thing, because the city never came to be, obviously.
Right. Didn't stop
But I think that's why it was burned down.
Okay. Because it was in the way.
Yeah. People were trying to preserve this bit of history. And these people with money were like, but we want a new city right there.
Yeah. That sounds more realistic.
The reason it's called Gates of Hell is because of the supposed satanic rituals and things going on there in its last days. And because the only thing left standing were tall rusted iron gates leading into the property.
That's pretty creepy.
Yeah, they're gone now. And the area is now Pelican Ponds open space, I think.
That's really disappointing. They should have left the Gates of Hell.
I know, they really should have.
That could have been a tourist attraction. Can you imagine all the pictures on Instagram?
Well, so that's the thing is like, that's what I went searching for. I was like, where are these gates? Because in other stories I was reading, like they made it sound like people come to them and it feels eerie and stuff. I finally came upon like one video of someone finding where 9190 was supposed to be. be, and it is this open space now. So they took it down.
Bummer.
But thankfully it didn't become another city. I mean, we have the river running through there. We shouldn't.
Yeah, we should let the nature
Exactly.
have it.
That's like the only bit of like peace in this area, honestly.
Yeah, we've driven enough of the wildlife out, building all of our developments everywhere.
Exactly. Anyway, a lot did go down on this property over the years with its history before and after the Wolperts built it and passed on. So who's to say?
Right.
Lots of sinister things could have happened.
Anywhere.
And other than this mansion and the history of the area, the Erie stretch of road is known for numerous accidents.
Mm-hmm.
As I mentioned, it's particularly dangerous to drive at fast speeds on parts of the road that are twisting and turning.
Yes.
That's one reason why. And I actually know someone, my daughter's father, who did this on a motorcycle going close to 100 miles an hour.
Not smart.
He hit a manhole and he flew like 100 feet,
Damn.
skidded along the road, ended up in a bank on the other side. He should have died. Like it's one of those accidents where it doesn't make sense. He miraculously survived, but he ended up in the hospital. Like he had to have all that
Oh my God.
asphalt taken out of his back.
Yeah.
It was a lot of recovery. Well, I'm thankful he survived because I wouldn't have my daughter.
That is true.
This was prior to me even knowing him.
Mm-hmm.
Other than the danger of the road itself, others get into accidents for more supernatural reasons.
Okay.
There are many claims to seeing apparitions on the road. All of a sudden, someone is in the middle of the road and the driver
scary.
swerves to miss them and crashes, only for whoever that was to just be gone.
Yeah.
Along the road signs are said to have blood on them or weird staining. And this actually is true.
That's weird.
There's stuff all over those signs and they look like splatters or like smears.
But people could be doing that on
Exactly.
purpose.
But it's thought to be the work of a ghost who, while alive, was a young boy that walked the road to get to school.
And got hit.
Yes, he was killed while on his daily commute, and now his spirit seems to be stuck there. And for some reason, he likes to jump up and smear blood on road signs.
Because he's bored.
I died here, so you're going to die too. Look at this blood. While driving, people have reported feeling breathing on their necks, feeling like they're being followed, hearing eerie chanting out of nowhere, and seeing headless animals running across the road.
That would be fucked up.
It's said that if you come upon an animal on the road, any animal, that it's actually a demon.
Ooh.
And if you see 3 animals while on your drive, you won't make it off the road alive.
And we don't know because those people die, so they can't tell us
Exactly.
that they saw a pack of headless
Coyotes.
I'm like, what am I thinking? Headless armadillos is what I was thinking. But
Armadillos.
I'm like, those aren't in Colorado.
I was thinking of what's over there. It'd be deer or coyotes.
The first thing that popped in my head was beaver. And I'm like, why a beaver?
Where
maybe
are you
because of the
living
river
right now?
Well,
I
because
mean,
of the
yeah.
river. But I'm like, but they wouldn't be crossing the road.
No, they have no purpose to go up a hill.
We never know what's going to pop into our mind when we're talking on here.
It's true. We have the classic woman in white.
Oh, she's everywhere. Every haunted place.
Sometimes she's tied back to the mansion.
Okay.
She walks the road seemingly searching for her way home. Some say that it's the lost spirit of the woman that died at her husband's hand at the old Wolpert mansion. And she's either trying to escape the fire or she's looking for her murdered children.
Okay.
Though people slow down when they see her, she silently continues on her path with her eyes forward, never turning around. And when they drive past her and look in their rearview mirror, she'll be gone.
Oh.
Other times, witnesses claim that they stop to try and offer her help.
Okay.
She obviously looks lost or
right.
on drugs or something. And upon getting out of the car, she just
vanishes.
Vanishes. There is legend of a phantom Camaro driver.
Very specific.
Well, in some stories, it's a guy in a truck. So I don't know.
Those are quite different.
I know. He will taunt other drivers and lure them into a road race.
Okay, so this only works on young boys and
Maybe.
and men in their 40s who are trying to prove something.
Yep. Someone with road rage.
Yeah.
If the other car races him, he runs them off the road and disappears.
Okay.
Near 120th Avenue in Riverdale, there's a spot known as Joggers Hill, which is allegedly haunted by the ghost of a runner who was killed in a hit-and-run accident. People report hearing phantom footsteps and a ghostly heartbeat behind them.
Okay.
And I think those are people who are like walking the
yeah.
road. And I would never walk this road. But
no,
some people
it
do.
sounds pretty dangerous if
Yes.
it's super curvy. And you know that little boy may have been hit and now a runner.
Mm-hmm.
I guess people want to tempt fate.
When I do see people walking, which is rare, I wonder if they're real because of this.
True.
Where I sit by the water, which is really close to this area where it starts to be the really windy parts of the road, I do always feel like I'm being watched
Oh, yeah.
while I'm sitting there, though. But it's like I sit there and I'm just like, no, but this is where my water is. So
Right.
leave me alone.
You're like, you can watch me, just don't, breathe on my neck or anything, please.
I know. Other than that, people have also reported seeing demon phantom dogs that run alongside the road or ghostly children like sitting on the side of the road playing
That'd be creepy.
like jacks.
So they're from the early 1900s.
Yeah. The one that gets me the most, though, and I guess I haven't really tried driving down the road at night on a full moon, is there have been reports of people seeing bodies hanging from the trees, specifically on a full moon.
No, thank you.
And there's actually a full moon tomorrow.
So we should drive there tomorrow.
Yeah.
Is it the women that were hung for witchcraft? Is that what they believe is hanging on the trees?
I think it's a mixture. I didn't read that it's specifically women.
Okay.
But of course, the best time to see anything is in the witching hour. So
3 a.m.
I probably won't experience that because I have a little kid and I can't go taking 3 a.m. strolls with her. But
And when you're up at 3 a.m., you're probably going to see all kinds of shit because you're like delusional and tired.
I know. I did take the full 11-mile drive 2 days ago
Oh, wow.
just to experience all of Riverdale before doing this. Not at night, though. Many find the road unremarkable, but I just enjoy the road, to be honest. Because
I love
it's
curvy roads.
Yeah,
Like, they're
it's
fun to
different.
drive.
I didn't see any animals on the side of the road, which I was thankful for because most people aren't driving the entire length of it. There's no purpose.
Right.
So I knew I was kind of stacking the odds against myself. Like, what if I do see 3?
And then you're never heard from again. And I have no idea that you were prepping for an episode. You're just gone.
I know, just gone. But yeah, it goes through chill parts. I didn't see anything crazy. It's just a normal drive for me.
Yeah.
But if you ever come here and you're interested in experiencing the road, totally fine. It's a public road. You can go literally anytime. But I urge you to exercise some caution, especially at night, and respect private property because there's tons like along this street.
Okay.
Like, don't be stupid and get out of your car and walk the road.
No, you're going to get hit.
I watched this YouTube girl who did this. Okay.
Oh, like got out of her car and walked around?
Yeah.
No.
And they were like walking in the middle of the road
Oh,
at
God.
night and they would
What?
like step off the road to get out of the way, but there was nowhere to go. So she was like stepping off the road like a whole foot.
Ugh.
And I was like, if I was driving and my headlights hit like a random person standing on the side of the road, I would get in an accident. Like,
Freaking out. Like, oh
I
my
know.
God. Especially if you're in like a curve at the time.
mm-hmm. So don't do that. It's a good
No.
way to get someone killed, you or them, even though I know you want to experience it. It's not a good thing to do. Anyway, whether Riverdale Road deserves its reputation as the gates of hell, it's up for debate.
Yeah.
Its dark legends and reported paranormal activity continue to attract curious visitors and paranormal enthusiasts from all over the place,
Yes.
which makes it a pretty significant part of Colorado's spooky folklore. So check it out.
I like it. We're making our way through a lot of the Colorado haunted places.
We have a lot here, actually.
We do. We also have a lot of true crime.
We do.
We could probably do a whole podcast just on Colorado. And
We
have
could.
plenty.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking the other day. I'm like, true crime is for a lifetime and many, many lifetimes and lifetimes and lifetimes like thing. I'm like, holy crap, like it's never ending.
Like we could do this podcast for the next 100 years.
And then my daughter could take over
The sad part is there's new true crime happening every single day.
every day. Yes, it's unfortunate, but I guess we'll report.
We're here for you.
All right, your turn.
Okay. Well, that was really interesting to me. I was like thinking in my mind that I need to go drive that road, but I will do it probably in the summertime. I don't want any ice or snow or any of that. And I'll probably take someone with me. I would never do that by myself because I'm a scaredy cat.
It is beautiful. The old trees. I love big old trees.
Yeah, it sounds like my kind of road. Like put some good music on and enjoy driving. So I'll check it out one day. I am reading our first listener tale. It is titled The Mirror Pyramid Chronicles.
Oh, whoa.
Sounds kind of like a book or something.
Yeah.
Hello, Kendra and Jessica.
Hello.
True fan here. I love you too and your banter back and forth. You're both pretty darn funny.
Aw.
Thank you. We try. Actually, we don't even really
No,
try. It's just who we are.
I know.
I started a little backwards and just recently listened to your very first episode on lucid dreaming. I thought I would share one of my dreams with you.
Oh, awesome. We only
Yay.
did one of these before.
We haven't thought about lucid dreaming in a long time.
I know.
That feels like a decade ago. For the past several weeks, I have been practicing various techniques to increase my chances of becoming aware within my dreams. While I've always had a knack for remembering my dreams in vivid detail, I was eager to take it a step further and gain control over my dreamscape. My ability to recall dreams has been with me since childhood. I can recount entire dream narratives, complete with intricate details of sights, sounds, even smells.
Ooh, sounds like me a little bit. I don't know about the smells.
Yeah.
I'm like thinking about that. Wait a second. I don't know. Maybe the feeling of a smell.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Like the idea of it.
Yeah.
This gift has led to countless mornings spent furiously scribbling in my dream journal.
Oh, a true lucid dreamer then.
Yeah, preserving the nocturnal adventures that most people forget within moments of waking.
Mm-hmm.
But now I want more than just remembering. I want to shape and direct these nightly journeys.
Yes.
That's very ambitious.
I wish someone paid me to do it.
Yeah. About a week ago, I went to bed with the intention of lucid dreaming. As I drifted off to sleep, I found myself suddenly aware that I was dreaming. The world around me shimmered with an otherworldly quality. I stood on a bustling city street, but something was off. The buildings seemed to breathe,
Ooh.
their facades rippling like water.
Ooh, Inception.
Exactly. That's what I'm thinking and picturing. Excited by the realization I was lucid, I decided to test the limits of this dream world. With a mere thought, I lifted off the ground and soared high above the city. The wind rushed through my hair as I darted between skyscrapers that now twisted impossibly, their spires reaching toward a kaleidoscopic sky.
Ooh, I'm picturing Doctor Strange right now.
Yeah, I still haven't watched that.
Oh my God.
Feeling bold, I willed myself to phase through a nearby building.
Oh, cool.
As I passed through the wall, the interior transformed into a lush jungle. Exotic flowers bloomed at my feet, their petals unfurling in hypnotic patterns. Colorful birds with multiple wings flitted between trees that grew upside down from the ceiling.
Multiple wings.
Very cool.
Wow.
They're like little hummingbird, kind of, is what I picture. They look like they have multiple wings.
A helicopter bird.
Suddenly, the ground beneath me liquefied. I sank into a shimmering pool that felt both wet and dry at the same time. As I submerged, I found I could breathe underwater. Schools of bioluminescent fish swam by, leaving trails of light in their wake. In the depths, I spotted an underwater city with architecture that defied physics.
Ooh.
Bubbles instead of buildings, connected by streams of flowing energy.
Whoa.
My brain just went off. Have you heard about
The aliens.
the civilization?
Yeah.
That's what I'm like, oh my God.
Well, maybe this isn't a lucid dream.
Maybe
this
he's
is-
visited
Yeah.
this civilization. Emerging from the water, I found myself back on the city street. But now every person I saw had my face.
Oh,
Now that's creepy.
that would be really creepy.
They all turned to look at me in unison. Oh. Their expressions a mirror of my own bewilderment.
Oh.
Unnerved, I decided to change the scene. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd get the hell out of there too. I don't want to look at myself that much.
It would be really weird.
It would be weird. With a blink, the cityscape melted away, replaced by a vast desert of purple sand. The sky above was a deep emerald green, dotted with two suns, one golden, the other a pulsating blue. As I walked across the dunes, my footsteps left glowing imprints that slowly faded behind me. In the distance, I saw a massive structure rising from the sand, a pyramid made entirely of mirrors.
Oh, you hear stuff about two suns a lot lately too. People
really?
seeing two suns.
I don't know if I've seen that.
It's
side
all
of
over TikTok.
Intrigued, I willed myself to teleport to the base of the pyramid. Up close, I could see that each mirror reflected a different scene.
Oh.
Some showed familiar places from my waking life, while others displayed alien landscapes I couldn't begin to comprehend. One mirror caught my attention. It showed a reflection of myself, but older and dressed in futuristic clothing. Reaching out to touch the mirror, my hand passed through it as if it were water. Without hesitation, I stepped through and found myself in a sleek, high-tech laboratory. Holographic displays floated in the air, showing complex equations and D models of DNA strands that twisted and unraveled before my eyes. I realized I was inhabiting the body of my older self, a scientist working on some groundbreaking discovery. As I examined the lab equipment, I noticed a small device on a nearby table. It looked like a simple remote control, but when I picked it up, the world around me began to shift and warp. Maybe you were actually just abducted by aliens.
This is crazy. This is crazy. I mean, I have dreams this insane too, but all
This
in
one's-
one
yeah.
is,
This sounds really interesting. Like, I want to be on this dream.
although it went somewhere else, like the mirrors kind of reminded me of in Interstellar when he's behind the scenes and looking at the different parts of his life. Yeah.
I was thinking of Game of Thrones when she goes into that one house and there's all the mirrors and they tell her, she ends up burning it down.
Oh.
Daenerys, the mother of dragons. That's what I was picturing. Each button pressed transported me to a different reality. I was suddenly on stage performing a virtuoso piano concerto to a packed concert hall.
Oh, well, this is really playing into the whole...
This is everything everywhere all at once.
Yeah, and to The Matrix.
Yeah, which both of those movies are similar in a way.
Yes, they are.
My fingers flew across the keys with impossible speed and precision, producing music that seemed to defy the laws of harmony. The audience was a sea of faceless figures, their applause a deafening roar that shook the very foundations of the building.
It was practice. We've talked about this in the lucid dreaming one.
Yeah,
Remember
that's how you get better at something. So
you were just practicing.
I wonder if when you woke up, you were able to play. Another button press and I found myself floating in the void of space. Stars and galaxies swirled around me in a cosmic dance. I could feel the vastness of the universe, yet I wasn't afraid. That sounds like an NDE. I stretched out my hand and grasped a star, feeling its warmth and energy pulsing through me. With a thought, I rearranged constellations, creating new patterns in the celestial tapestry. The next reality shift placed me in the midst of a raging battle between two armies of mythical creatures. Dragons soared overhead, breathing streams of multicolored fire. On the ground, centaurs clashed with minotaurs, while phoenixes and griffins engaged in aerial combat. I found I could control the outcome of the battle with mere gestures, like a god playing with toy soldiers.
Well, shit, I would never want to wake up if you're getting to jump from place to place like this.
This is way cooler than our...
It's like 10 different book series all
right,
in one.
You're in all the movies we want to be in. Fascinated by this power, I pressed another button. This time I shrank down to the size of an atom.
Oh.
The world around me became a vast landscape of subatomic particles. Electrons whizzed by me like comets, and I could see the intricate dance of quarks and gluons. I marveled at the complexity of this microscopic universe, realizing that even in dreams, there were worlds within worlds. Growing tired of the constant shifts, I decided to create my own dreamscape. Concentrating hard, I imagined a serene meadow bathed in perpetual twilight. Fireflies danced in the air, their light leaving trails that formed words and images. A gentle stream meandered through the field, its waters singing a soft lullaby. Trees with leaves of spun glass lined the edges of the meadow, chiming softly in a non-existent breeze. As I lay down in the soft grass, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. The dream had been wild and exhilarating, but now I craved the comfort of familiar surroundings. I closed my eyes within the dream, focusing on the sensation of my real body lying in bed. Slowly, the dream world began to fade. The sounds of the stream and the chiming trees grew distant. I felt a gentle tugging sensation as if I were rising up through layers of consciousness. The vivid imagery of the dream world dissolved into the darkness behind my eyelids. With a deep breath, I opened my eyes to find myself back in my bedroom. The first rays of dawn were peeking through my curtains. For a moment, I lay still, savoring the lingering echoes of the dream. The memories were already starting to slip away like water through my fingers, but the sense of wonder and possibility remained. As I sat up and stretched, I couldn't help but smile. The line between dream and reality felt blurred, and I wondered what adventures awaited me in future nights of lucid dreaming. I reached for a notebook on my bedside table, eager to jot down as many details as I could remember before they faded completely. The act of writing anchors my dream experiences, making them more tangible. As I filled page after page with descriptions of mirror pyramids, cosmic pianos, and atomic landscapes, I realized that the creativity unleashed in my dreams could inspire my waking life as well. But a part of me was already looking forward to the next night, wondering what new worlds and experiences my dreaming mind would conjure. The boundary between sleep and wakefulness has become a doorway to infinite possibilities, and I can't wait to step through it again.
Oh my God, like that is how I feel about dreaming. And by the way, I love your writing. It's beautiful.
Yes.
But that's exactly what I felt like when you sit up and you're like, you're still there and the memories are literally slipping away, but you are left with the feeling of how you felt inside that dream. And it's like, you just want to hold on to it because it's not what you have here.
No, and it's hard coming back to reality when you're so immersed in this like vivid dreamscape.
Yeah.
Like that's amazing. Like I would be looking forward to sleeping every night and I'd want to sleep like 12 hours.
It's hard because I always look forward to sleeping because first of all, I'm fucking tired, but I do love my dreams. They're always so crazy. And honestly, they did a really good job of describing some of the shit they see because I see that kind of stuff too.
I love when you wake up from a good dream. Like it starts your day off so good because you're coming out of this like just magical place.
Yes.
Opposite is true when you wake up from a nightmare, obviously. And I've
Right,
had those
exactly.
days as well. Like for me, the ones that really mess with me are it's like conversations I've had with people that I interact with, like my boyfriend or friends. And I feel like we had an argument.
Yes.
And I wake up almost like angry or anxious about whatever happened in my dream. Those are bad days too. Let me finish this up so that I can call them by their name. It says, thank you. And as always, stay lucid. Michael.
Michael, thank you.
Yeah, Michael, you have some amazing dreams. You're a great writer. So thank you so much for sending this in.
Yes, thank you.
And I'm jealous of your ability to be able to do lucid dreaming.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have the time to practice like I should, but I think I dream a lot because I don't get consistent sleep. A lot of lucid dreamers have to like wake up just because of the stage that you have to be in to have those types of dreams.
Right.
And I feel like even though I'm not creating a lot of things lately, I'm still aware because I do change things. I'm like, nope, or I'll stop certain people in my dreams that are trying to manipulate me in some way and push them away. And
yeah,
the dreams that kind of have a grasp on me are the ones where I do wake up and it was a fantastical dream. You know, it's not stuff we see here, but I'll go throughout my day and it will take me until like the afternoon to realize that something didn't actually happen. You know, like you live with that memory, like it's something that you did in the last week or something. And
yeah,
you're like,
you think it's part of your reality.
Wait,
but
no,
it's not.
It's not. That didn't happen. Well, that was amazing.
Yeah,
Thank
that
you.
was amazing. Thank you so much for taking us back to lucid dreaming, our
to
roots.
the origin story. Okay, I have the next lab report from a special listener.
Okay.
It is titled An Unexpected Guest.
Oh, not the kind I like.
Probably not. This was sent a little earlier last year. Usually we don't get any warning on when it's being written other than the date you send it in.
Right.
But it says, Happy Thanksgiving, beautiful lucid ladies. You can call me Morgan. I stumbled upon your podcast on Reddit.
Oh,
Which,
I wonder what Reddit.
yeah, I was looking up more information on Heaven's Gate and Marshall Applewhite after listening to another podcast talk about it. It was one of those quick podcasts with 10-minute episodes, which I do like because it turns me on to topics I want to learn more about. But I'm completely sucked in now and almost caught up on every episode. So
Aw,
thank you.
That's awesome. Thanks, Morgan.
Thank you.
Glad you're enjoying it.
Yes. Okay. So before I tell you about what happened to me recently, I need to share this memory from when I was a kid. It's kind of related and honestly is probably why I'm still so freaked out about what just happened.
Oh,
Not sure how this happens twice.
okay. Two unexpected guests.
Oh, yes. I'm slow sometimes. I was about 8 or 9, and one night my dad went downstairs to get a drink of water from the kitchen. All the bedrooms were upstairs. When he got to the living room, he was startled by a teenage boy.
Oh.
He was sitting on our couch in the dark. The kid didn't move or say anything. He just sat there. He was breathing heavily but didn't have any weapons. My dad was frozen, but after no response from the boy, yelled to my mother to call the police.
Yeah.
The boy didn't even try to run. He just stayed on the couch, staring forward. I never saw him because my dad screamed for us to all stay in our rooms.
Yes.
When the cops came, they just let him out. I saw the back of him as they walked to the police car, but that's it.
Weird.
Turns out he had gotten in through a window in our back playroom. It was broken and wouldn't shut properly.
Okay.
We never really knew why he did it. Was he just going through people's yards, finding someone who left their doors unlocked or some way to get in? Did he choose our house? Did he know that our window was broken?
Yeah.
The incident stuck with me for years.
Yes, it would.
We were scared for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Me and my sister slept in my parents' room for several months until my father couldn't handle it anymore. But I still managed to sneak into bed with them for the next 2 years on occasion.
That'd be hard.
Fast forward to about a month ago,
Uh-oh.
2 days before Halloween. I'm all grown up now, living in a small apartment with my sister. We're only 10 months apart, so we've always been more like twins. We plan to live together until one of us gets married. But who knows? Maybe we'll just end up childless cat ladies, which we might be okay with.
I kind of like that idea.
Anyway, I always sleep with a nightlight on, probably because of that childhood incident, to be honest. I have just never been comfortable in complete darkness. On this particular night, we were both asleep in our rooms. It was around 2 a.m. when everything happened.
Oh, no. The same teenager came back.
Oh, God.
Oh, that's a horror movie.
That's Daniel LaPlante.
Oh, God, yeah.
I heard these weird noises. At first, I thought I was dreaming, but then I heard it again and again. It was like soft scratching or shuffling, really faint. I have a cat and thought
Litter box.
he might be messing with something, or litter box. So I called out for him to stop and patted on the bed to have him come up. I must have fallen back asleep because then I woke up in a panic. I listened and could hear the noise again. Again, I called to my cat, and this time he hissed.
Oh no.
That's when I knew something was wrong. My cat's name is Beast. His name came from him just being a crazy ass kitten who always wanted to fight, but nowadays he's lazy, plump, and spoiled. He never hisses unless he's really spooked.
Okay.
So I sat up in bed, still calling for him. I heard the noise coming from the bottom of my bed. My bed's pretty high off the ground, so I crawled over to take a look. Maybe he got a mouse or something. It was strange that he wasn't responding to me. Usually he comes up to me right away, especially if it means cuddle time.
Right.
For that reason alone, I was a little on edge. I could feel my heart pounding in my ears. But as I leaned over the foot of the bed,
I'm going back to the book we talked about, like the scary stories, tell in the dark, urban legend, where the person's under their bed.
And they lick your hand.
Yes.
Oh my God.
That's where I'm at right now.
I was prepared to lunge at my cat to stop him from killing a poor mouse. And that's when I saw him.
Oh no, there was a man?
There is a man crouched down on all fours, like some kind of animal.
What the fuck?
It took me a moment to recognize his shape as a person. In the glow of my nightlight, I couldn't make out many details. At first, my brain told me it was a pile of clothes, but quickly did some brain inventory and knew that there was not a pile of clothing on my floor. He was wearing dark clothes, a black hoodie and jeans, I think. His hair was dark, messy, and kind of long, hanging over his face. But what really stuck with me were his eyes. It's always the fucking eyes.
Yes, because they're crazy eyes.
They were wide open, almost bulging, with this wild, panicked look.
He must have been on drugs.
Probably. Maybe even that kid back then. Especially if he's not like responding to anybody.
Yeah, like he thought he was somewhere he wasn't.
Maybe.
Like he thought he was home or something. Who knows?
He wasn't a big guy, maybe average height and skinny. His skin looked pale, almost sickly. I noticed his hands were gripping the carpet and his knuckles were white. When our eyes met, I saw his face clearly for a second. He had a scruffy beard, not full, but like he just hadn't shaved in a few days. And there was a scar or something on his left cheek below his eye. That or it was dirt. I still haven't made my mind up on that.
You don't want to get close.
But I screamed. I screamed so loud I thought my lungs would burst. I expected him to attack me or something. I started crawling back in my bed frantically, but he didn't attack me. Instead, he jumped up and ran out of my room through the living room and out the door.
What?
On his way out, he knocked over a bowl off my kitchen counter and it crashed to the floor and shattered. My sister screamed, came running into my room, all confused and scared because of my screaming and stuff falling. She didn't see him, just the aftermath of everything that had happened in those few seconds. She was screaming, but she didn't know why she was screaming, and it took me a minute to spit out what had just happened.
Wow.
We called the police right away, but the guy was long gone by the time they got there. While waiting for the cops to show up, we realized that he must have come through the sliding patio door in my room. I have a little balcony off my room. I always lock it, but somehow he managed to get it open. He had to have climbed up. We're on the second floor. I still don't know who he was or why he was in our apartment. I'm still freaked out about it. My sister and I are actually moving in a few days, and I just wanted to get the story out so that hopefully we feel better in our new place and leave this experience behind us.
Good for you. I would have to get out too, I think.
Well, yeah, because now he knows a girl sleeps in that room.
Or I think he was stalking me.
Yeah. Here, every little noise at night makes me jump. I don't think I'll ever forget what he looked like or how terrified I was in that moment. Yeah. Even though, in a way, he seemed more terrified than me once I saw him.
This was like an X-Files episode.
X-Files?
Yeah, there was like a weird guy who came through the vents.
It's been so long since I watched any X-Files.
It was this like, he was a demonic creature and he came through the vents to kill his victims, and he came into Scully's apartment.
I'm going to be scared to sleep tonight now.
Yeah.
She continues, and poor Beast, he hid under our couch for 2 days after that.
Oh, poor kitty.
I guess we were both pretty traumatized by the whole thing. I didn't think we would need wood or a bar on my second floor patio door, but now I know better.
Yeah.
Creeps are out there and will do anything to get in. But now I have 2 experiences with 2 mentally unstable men entering my home, catching them, and then them not doing anything to us. I just don't know how to feel about it.
I don't either, but I'm glad you're okay.
If they had more time alone without our knowledge of them, would they have done something? I will never know, but thank heavens I never had to find out. Thanks for listening, girls. Stay lucid, Morgan.
Whoa. Like the teenager, I think, may have just been a kid who took drugs for the first time and got lost, honestly.
Hopefully.
especially since he was like catatonic when they were talking to him.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like.
The guy in the apartment makes me think he's some creepy predator that likes to watch women sleep.
Yeah. And she was just like laying there sleeping, hearing noises. What if his head was like above the bed actually staring at her when she was doing that?
I know. That's like, I'm traumatized for her right now thinking about it. Like I'm all tense sitting here because I know there's creepy guys out there that would do this shit. I'm so glad you're okay.
Yes.
And that you moved.
Both of you guys.
And yes,
my goodness.
I have a sliding patio door at my house and I have one of those big wooden block things.
Yeah, I have something on my door too.
Yeah, I'm not going to make it easy for them at least. And I have a basement at my house too, and I keep the basement door locked from the inside too. Like I'm super paranoid about everything. Ugh.
Yep.
And now I'm going to not be able to sleep tonight.
Yeah, thanks. Because I have a high bed too.
I know, me too.
Well, thank you for writing in.
Thank you. And that takes us to our last story of the episode. And I am going to be presenting my mini episode. So I kind of took a turn because I started putting together a true crime mini episode and realized that it was a lot of information, which I swear happens to us every single time we pick any topic. And
it's true.
So that one will now become my next full episode.
And you just have to look at the brighter side of things. You have half of it done.
I do. I wrote like 10 pages and I was like, this is way too long for a mini episode. So we have another haunted story.
Nice.
And it is the haunted Lake Lanier.
Oh, okay.
So each year, more than 10 million people visit Lake Lanier in Gainesville, Georgia. Though the massive lake may look unsuspecting, it is considered one of the deadliest in America.
I think I actually have heard of this lake.
Indeed, there have been 700 deaths since its construction in 1956.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Via boating accidents, drownings, or other mysterious deaths. The Netflix drama Ozark films many of their scenes at this lake.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's an interesting little tidbit.
Do they have like a history of bad shit happening while recording?
I didn't say anything about that, but there's a history of a lot of bad shit happening where this lake is.
You can tell I'm a podcaster. I said recording, not filming, but you know.
Supernatural lore and urban legends about the lake have found a receptive audience on social media. I actually found out about this through TikTok, and my child saw it, this ghost lake, and I was like, that sounds like a really interesting mini episode. The shocking number of accidents at the lake has led many to theorize that the site may in fact be haunted. And given the controversial circumstances surrounding Lake Lanier's construction, there might be some truth to that idea. The lake was created in the 1950s by flooding an existing community that contained a cemetery, fueling beliefs that it's cursed.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
In 1956, the United States Army Corps of Engineers was tasked with creating a lake to provide water and power to parts of Georgia, mostly Atlanta, and to help prevent Chattahoochee River from flooding. Before the land was buried in water, it was a lush and fertile area with farm areas. Communities were thriving there. But along came the U.S. Corps of Engineers, and they decided that this was the perfect location to create a lake, and the government began offering locals money for their farmland. Most of the land had been in families for generations, and they didn't really want to let it go. I'm finding out as I was researching this, like a lot of our man-made lakes were put over other towns, and actually I grew up on a lake in Belton, Texas, and I know that people who had lived in that area for a long time talk about that there's houses at the bottom of that lake too.
Oh.
This was something that was pretty common back when they were trying to build all these bigger cities.
Okay.
At first, the government assured landowners that they were going to be paid for the true value of the land and buildings, but residents found it hard to really put a price on their generations of memories in those locations.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And the hard work they had put in to build these farms. But at the end of the day, they really didn't have a choice. They gave them the illusion of choice.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually some 700 families did sell a total of 56,000 acres to the government, and they built a dam on the Chattahoochee River.
Okay.
As their land filled with water in 1956, those locals jammed roads and bridges to watch as history vanished before their eyes. Whatever they had abandoned was now being covered by water.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
That'd be hard to watch.
Yeah. Okay.
To prepare for the land to be filled with water, the Army Corps of Engineers demolished or moved anything that they considered dangerous. They uprooted trees and hauled them away. Barns and wooden structures that could float and endanger potential future watercraft were moved. Major infrastructure such as bridges and water intakes were relocated. They didn't say what they did with the animals, though. Those were the only things I saw. I did see that there was also like a racetrack in the community community, and they somehow buckled down or secured the bleachers instead of removing them just so that they wouldn't float up.
That's weird.
It's interesting how they decide what goes and what stays, that they just
Yeah.
put water over. The main thing was the cemetery.
Yeah.
The Corps identified and moved any grave that was marked with a
Oh.
name, but they left behind the unmarked graves because they were not able to identify who the people were, and there was no family to claim them. It's disrespectful. I
Yeah.
feel like, I don't know.
I know. It's so hard because if there's nothing to tell you what's there, what do you do?
But you're building a lake, and I would imagine that would wash up some of those buried souls.
I mean, it depends.
Like, would their
but
caskets
yeah.
float up? And so you have them floating in the lake. I'm creeped out now by any man-made lake after doing this story.
It's true, though. It's very true. It's creepy. You don't know.
Yeah.
Don't be swimming in it. I'm sure that's what people do, though, right?
Well, yeah, it's a huge lake. Some of the families that had sold to the government regretted their decision because they realized that they couldn't really make a new living and build a new home on what the government gave them. So they really did feel slighted.
Yeah. Of course, they're never going to give you enough.
No. And by the end of it, like, you don't take their first offer. They'll keep going and going. But eventually they're just like, this is it. Take it.
Yeah.
We're doing it no matter what. Because if there's the majority of the people in the community that
Doing
take the
it,
money,
yeah.
they will force you. I've heard of it happening for them to build like freeways.
Oh, yes, definitely. Here in Thornton, there's still some random houses in the middle of like an Amazon building.
Because they wouldn't sell.
Yeah, they haven't sold.
I think there's like some, I don't know what it is in Colorado. It's probably varies by state, but I think there is something written in the clause, like if it's for the greater good, they have the right to take your property. And they consider roads the greater good.
See, it doesn't matter if you own shit, guys.
We
You
don't
still
own
don't
shit.
own it.
Well, we don't own our houses even
Yeah.
because after we die, if the taxes can't be paid by our children or whatever, they'll take it right back.
Yep.
So this is where we get into what I think might be the main contributing factor to the hauntings of the lake. You see, long before all of these families were taken advantage of by the government, the land had actually been stolen by those who were sitting there in the property in 1956.
Okay.
Who from? I mean, obviously the Native Americans, we
Yes.
stole all the land from them, but there was even more violent history on top of that. It involved a black town called Oscarville that was established after the Civil War.
Okay.
Now, when they flooded the area to make Lake Lanier, Oscarville was still a town. It was now occupied mostly by white residents. It had a sordid history. The town of Oscarville was strangely not demolished before the lake was filled, and its ruins still rest at the bottom. The town of Oscarville was once a bustling turn-of-the-century community and a beacon for black culture in the South. It was a thriving community filled with carpenters, blacksmiths, bricklayers, and more. Out of all the trades in the town, farming was the number one. Around 1912, there were 1,100 black residents in Forsyth County, and only 58 of them were landowners. The rest were allowed to live on the land, but they were forced to pay a farm tax.
Okay.
And this was something that had to be paid by anyone that rented or owned a farm. It was a way for, at the time, them to give black people a space in their community, but they were very stingy about actually letting them own land. We know all of the sordid history. Pastors Grant Smith and Levi Greenlee were the spiritual leaders of this community, and they helped keep everyone together. There are records from Oscarville's church showing that they would have big picnics organized, and it was just a good haven for oppressed black people at the time. But all of that would change on September 9th of 1912. An 18-year-old white woman named May Crow was raped and murdered near Browns Bridge on the Chattahoochee River, which was near Oscarville.
Oh, and they blamed someone from that community?
Of course. May Crow's murder was pinned on 4 young boys
Oh.
from Oscarville.
Either this is just extremely common or I've heard this before.
We talked about some of this in the Harry and Harriet Moore episode.
Right, with the younger boy. Yeah.
It was unfortunately very common anytime something happened to a white woman to blame it on the closest black community, usually young teenage boys.
Yeah.
They wanted a reason to lynch these poor kids that most of the time weren't doing anything. And it seems to be the case in this story as well. So there were 2 brothers, Oscar and Trussie Daniel. They were 18 and 22 years old, and their 16-year-old cousin, Ernest Knox, and their family friend, Robert Edwards. They were all four arrested for May's murder and taken to jail in Cumming, Georgia, which was the seat of Forsyth County. A day later, after they were taken to jail, a mob of white men showed up, invaded. This happens every time too, I feel like.
I know, it does.
They pushed their way in, or were most likely just let in by racist sheriffs, let's be real.
Yep.
They went into Robert Edwards' cell. They shot him, dragged him out through the streets, and hanged him from a telephone pole outside the courthouse.
Oh my God. Ugh.
A month later, Ernest Knox and Oscar Daniel appeared in court for the rape and murder of May Crow. They were found guilty by an all-white jury in just over an hour.
Oh my God.
Some 5,000 people gathered around to watch the teenagers hanged. Somehow, Trussie's charges were dismissed. Trussie was the youngest of all of them, so maybe that's why. But it is widely believed, for those who have studied this case after the fact, that all of the boys were innocent.
Yep.
Like usual.
Yep.
But this sparked something horrible, and violence against the Black residents of Oscarville, Georgia began because everyone started this whole idea that
they're violent.
Everybody's going to come after their, young daughters.
Yes.
And the residents began receiving threats. They would have their homes shot up and set on fire. White mobs known as night riders started going door to door across Oscarville with torches and guns. They began burning down the Black businesses and churches in the town, and they demanded that all Black citizens should vacate the county or pay the price.
God damn it. I hate white people sometimes. It's just how I hate the history of everything.
This is why I get so angry with the whole Make America Great.
Oh,
Again,
I know. We're seeing all of these KKK groups just walking around like they're allowed to own the place again.
This is the world they want.
I know.
I don't understand. I can't even conceive of thinking this way towards another human being.
No.
So, of course, what did all of the Black citizens do? They got out because they were afraid for their lives. And this led to those who did own land selling their property for way less than they paid for it.
Yep.
For example, one man from the area named Alex Hunter had bought his farm fair and square for $1,500, which was a lot of money back then. When he sold the land, he only received $500. They gave him 1/3 of what he paid for it.
Wow.
Others who just fled the area because they were afraid for their lives, they just took their land. They did some kind of adverse possession legal process that basically said that they abandoned their land, and if they were gone too long, it could be sold to someone else. So essentially, the land was stolen from this Black community that was just trying to live their lives, farm, and have a good life.
Around the same time, this happened in so many areas.
It did. According to Georgia historian Elliot Jaspin, only 24 of those who owned land were able to sell it for any kind of money. The rest, there was no record of selling it, so it's safe to say that most of it was stolen. And to this day, less than 5% of Forsyth County's population is Black. So they really drove them out and they never came back. So with this kind of past, how could the lake not be haunted?
Yeah.
Over the years, divers have reported creepy sightings beneath the murky waters. Some tell stories of freaky catfish as big as a Volkswagen.
Oh.
YouTube is filled with divers showing videos of sunken houseboats and piles of debris.
Why do people keep going on the lake?
I don't know. I don't think a lot of people realize it just looks like a pretty lake. In 2017, there was a longtime diver named Buck Buchanan, and he told local media that he sometimes felt body parts in the lake during his many diving excursions.
Oh.
He said, you reach out into the dark and you feel an arm or a leg and it doesn't move.
What?
Ew. Why are you still diving?
Yeah. And why are you not calling the police or something? That's a missing person.
Ugh. Others claim to hear church bells ringing while they're out on the lake in a boat or swimming. The Army Corps of Engineers say that's impossible because the churches that were in the area when they flooded the lake were taken down because they had wooden steeples. That would have been something that floated.
Oh, well.
It's kind of eerie.
You're messing with people's faith.
Yeah.
You're going to fuck some shit up.
The most popular legend's called the Lady of the Lake.
Mermaid.
She's not the lady in white, but as the story goes, in 1958, two young girls named Delia Mae Parker Young and Susie Roberts were at a dance in town but had decided to leave early. On the way home, they stopped to get gas and then left without paying for it. They were driving across a bridge when they lost control of their car, spiraling off the edge and crashing into the dark waters below. A year later, a fisherman out on the lake came across a decomposed, unrecognizable body floating near the bridge. At the time, no one could identify who it was. It wasn't until 1990 when officials discovered a 1950s Ford sedan at the bottom of the lake with the remains of Susie Roberts inside that they were able to identify the body that was found 3 decades earlier as Delia Mae Parker Young.
That's sad. They were gone for so long.
I know. But locals already knew who she was. They had reportedly seen her still in her blue dress wandering near the bridge at night with handless arms.
Oh.
It was said that she was waiting to drag unsuspecting lake goers to the bottom of the lake with her. Other reports are of a shadowy figure sitting on a raft, inching himself across the water with a long pole and holding up a lantern as he rafts towards you. That sounds really creepy.
Well, going back to the girls real quick,
Mm-hmm.
you know what that makes me think of is they left without paying. Maybe they were being attacked by somebody and he was in the car or something, and that's why they went off the lake in the first place. Maybe her hands were tied. Maybe she has a reason to be dragging certain people down into the lake with her.
It's true. Maybe.
They don't know what happened.
Why did they lose control? Yeah.
Young, pretty girls coming home from a dance.
Yeah.
Who didn't pay for their gas.
It does sound like a true crime potential.
It does.
I'm surprised the 2 girls were allowed to go out unchaperoned, honestly, in the 50s.
Exactly. Or maybe it was their chaperone that did it.
True.
Anyway, moving on.
Besides these 2 ghost stories, there are some who claim that the lake is haunted by the spirits of the other victims who have died over the years. Of the 700 victims that we know have died in this lake since 1956, 27 of them are just missing. The bodies were never found. So some people believe that haunts the lake because they want people to discover what happened to them.
I think the very fact that hundreds have died there is enough to just say it's haunted. We don't have to say who.
And maybe we shouldn't be boating on this lake.
No, this is a cursed lake is what it is.
This reminds me of the lake that the young girl from Glee died on. Her and her son went out on the boat.
Mm-hmm.
They were saying that lake was known for dragging people under as well.
Yeah, because there was a certain little current that happens.
That's what I think about when I'm reading this. I think hers was in California, maybe.
Yeah, so scary.
I would never go in this lake.
No.
I'm freaked out by lakes, to be honest, anyways.
Me too.
I just have never liked them, even though I grew up on one and I went swimming in it all the time. It's still, something about it always creeped me out, and I always smelled like fish coming out, and I didn't like it.
I think I've only been in a couple, to be honest. And I did like swim in one. It does give you this weird feeling that the water doesn't recycle itself. That's what kind of gets to me, is that it's the same.
It's not moving. It's stagnant.
Exactly.
And it's fresh water, so there's not like salt to kill things.
Yeah.
I grew up in Texas lakes, and a lot of times it would get so hot during the summer that they would always have the brain-eating amoebas. I would read about it every summer. It would go up your nose. Like, I never wanted to put my head under the water in a lake, even if I did go in there.
I know.
Because it gets up into your skull and kills you. Ugh.
Yeah, or just anything swimming up anywhere.
Yeah, I don't.
And then every time a lake starts to lose some of its water, bodies are found.
Yes,
literally every time.
Can you imagine if this area goes into drought, how much they're going to find?
I know.
With 700 people dying, we know there's 27 missing, and then there's all the unmarked graves and who knows what else.
That's just 27 people missing that they didn't find. They don't know who is missing that was on that lake.
That people didn't know went out on that lake.
Right. Visitors.
Or crimes are happened and people dump the bodies in the lake. We know that.
Yeah. Plenty of reasons for this place to be haunted.
Yes. Over the decades, when the lake's waters do drop, just like what we were talking about, submerged roads, parts of cars, tires, and other artifacts will kind of float up to the top.
Do they use that opportunity to remove them from the lake?
I believe so.
Okay.
But with all the hauntings and lore around Lake Lanier, it has not affected the lake's popularity. They had about 12 million visitors just last year.
Wow.
It is one of the most visited man-made lakes in the nation, according to the Army Corps of Engineers. They operate 464 lakes in the U.S. They created in 43 states.
Whoa.
Most of our lakes were created in some way, and a lot of them have communities and history buried beneath them.
We have a lot of lakes here. Bodies of water that are just standing there. Like if you pull up just a map, Apple, Google Maps or whatever, and you just zoom out a little bit, there's just little lake after big lake after little lake. And I don't know, maybe most of those are man-made.
I am surprised to find out that most of them are, because if there's not a natural source like a spring or a river feeding the lake, anywhere there's a dam was created by someone.
Yeah.
Perhaps the thing that truly haunts Lake Lanier is its bigoted history. And while researching this case, I would be remiss to not mention other horrible actions taken against Black communities in the past. So with that, I do want to mention a few other Black towns specifically that were stolen and made into lakes. This was highlighted in a 2021 special by Amber Ruffin from The Daily Show. I used to watch that back when it was Jon Stewart. And they are referred to as drowned towns. Alabama actually has two of them. One was named Benson, or also an African named COGenWeb.
Okay.
It is hidden under Lake Martin in Alabama. And this was a town that was created in 1880 by a man named John Benson. He began buying up land. By 1898, he owned over 3,000 acres. He built a farmhouse, a brickyard, a sawmill, a cotton gin. It led to a community being formed for other Black citizens to move to. Together, over 40 families produced corn, cotton, sugar, wood, you name it. Due to his wealth, John Benson was able to become his own bank at the time. He began backing mortgages for Black people and even would loan money to white people who needed it. So he was building something really good here.
But we can't have that.
John had a son named William who was born into this wealth that his dad had created, and he also built a legacy. He went to college and he came back to the community and wanted to provide education to the people of Benson. So he came up with a plan to build a school in the community. He believed by teaching the residents how to read, write, and build moral character, the community would rise to a higher standard and would be able to contribute more to the world. So they created the COGenWeb Academic and Industrial Institute. The school provided education to Black children for nearly 40 years after opening.
Wow.
Well-known individuals like Booker T. Washington went to this school. He also wanted to do more. William came up with the idea of building a railroad. During 1900, he purchased 540 acres to begin the building of the railroad. By 1914, his railroad plans came to life and he founded the Dixie Line. It was the first Black-owned railroad company in the United States, but it was a short-lived project. Because of World War I, the railroad was dismantled by the Alabama Power Company just a few months before they then decided for other plans, and that was to build a 44,000 acre reservoir in 1923. They didn't have an option. It was kind of just told, this is what we need. They took it over. They paid them a measly sum of money because they were Black. And now sitting at the bottom of Lake Benson is all of these great things that they put into the world because we needed another lake to provide power. And the Alabama Power Company, they needed it for hydroelectric power to go back into some of the larger communities. And why not take over a thriving Black community at the same time? I think there was probably multiple reasons they chose this area.
Yeah.
So it's safe to say this land was stolen as well in a lot of ways. The other one in Alabama is hidden under Lake Martin, and it was the town of Susanna. In the early 1900s, there were about 900 Black Americans living there. They had a post office, a bank, a gold mine, a school, several mills, a blacksmith shop, a church, you name it. It was a thriving community, but come 1916, here is Alabama Power Company again, and they just somehow acquired the rights to the land because they wanted to build a 168-foot dam to, once again, provide electricity to larger communities. Probably white communities. During this time, hundreds of families were displaced because they were still living there at the time, and they had to relocate 923 graves because there were 12 cemeteries in that lake. But I didn't see anything about it being haunted.
Oh, wow.
And then finally, the other Black community that I saw that was drowned, as we called it, is Seneca Village, and this was in New York City. It was a population of 350 plus Black citizens of New York, and it is now hidden under Central Park.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
During 1857, the city of New York used eminent domain to seize the land and displace all of those residents. Construction began shortly after, and the park known as Central Park took the place of this important Black community. In 2011, archaeologists from Columbia University and the City University of New York went under the lake in Central Park, and they were able to dig up a few plots of land for research purposes and to learn more about Seneca Village, and they found things like shoes, beer bottles, pans, tea kettles, and more. But at the end of the day, we have 4 communities that I know of, and there's probably many more that were completely taken off the map to fuel other larger communities that were mostly white. And it is a sign of racial discrimination.
Yep.
We know that they also did, like Tulsa is one of the most famous ones. There's so many Black communities that were taken over in very violent ways. As soon as they would start building up things for themselves, we couldn't have that in America. We had to bring them back down.
And they would use these instances like a girl being hurt, blame it on them.
Always.
And then all the white men of a neighboring community would be like, well, we have the right to go defend what happened now. And they would burn things down. They would kill them. It would all be ruined in a day.
White people in power thought that they were conspiring against them to take over. And it's like, no, they just wanted to live their lives and have community where they felt safe.
I just don't get it. I don't get any of it.
Now, one of the most fucked up things I found out to feed into our racist past is that when I was researching Lake Lanier, the main article that came up was from CNN. And when I read the entire article, it never mentioned Oscarville and the Black community. Mm-hmm. It said that it was taken from these poor people who were living there in the 50s and like those poor families of farmers and all of this. And it was through TikTok talking about it and then me doing research through other less mainstream sources that I find out about Oscarville because they don't want us to know this.
They're constantly covering the past.
This like ties back to why I'm going to be sad if TikTok goes away.
I know. So much of what we know is because everyone around the world is getting together. Someone knows something. They let another person know. Another person gets to go dig because we don't have access to all the same information where we're living.
No.
And what our government is censoring on our internet. It's big.
It is. So that's my story of started with Lake Lanier, ended up into these drowned towns and just more violent history of the United States of America.
Yeah.
Yeehaw.
Ghosty stories are rarely fun.
Well, yeah, there's always some horrible past to make a place haunted to begin with.
Yeah, it was an important one to talk about right now, given the time.
Yes.
A reminder of the past here, what is still here, what's coming, and what they're trying to hide from everyone.
And also the fact that the government has and will do this kind of shit. They will take over when they want to.
Yep.
We are truly not the land of the free.
No. What a fucking illusion this whole America bullshit has been.
It's propaganda.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
I worry that TikTok is just the beginning. What else is going to be taken away from us that we can't even research?
But you know what? I'm still going to stand firm in my belief that we're all too fucking smart now. This is a modern time. What they did back then in the 50s, back then in, the early 1900s, it's not going to work the same now. There's too many people all over the world with the same consensus of, wow, we are all oppressed.
Yes.
Within our country. This isn't just us. It's them and it's them and it's them. And then they start to break down the structure. Oh, this exists. This patriarchy exists here because they need to control this, which controls this, which controls this, which controls this. And everything's being deconstructed now.
We are awake.
We're awake. They cannot control that. They cannot
change us.
No.
They can't put it back in the box. Pandora's box is open now and enough of us are awakened to the bullshit.
It'll take time for the other ones. They're going to be like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Because it'll affect them too. And that's just how some human beings are. Until it affects them directly, they don't see it.
Yeah. So this is our call to action, I guess. I don't know.
I don't know
where we're going.
Who knows where we're going? We don't mean to be political, but you know what? As we've said in many episodes, it's
not politics. It's human rights.
And it's all about human rights.
This is humans.
The only thing that makes it political is you're following people who, what did one guy say today? If you were on fire, they wouldn't even piss on you. Anyways,
thank you for
that's us.
This kind of longer lab reports today.
Come back next week for an interesting true crime from moi.
Yes, looking forward to it.
If you have any interesting lab reports yourself, information that if you had some more guts to be on the internet, you would tell TikTok before it disappears, send in any information you have to lucidlabpodcast@gmail.com.
And you can find us on social media at YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and hopefully at some point again, TikTok.
Or hopefully still.
We don't know. We're recording ahead of time. We're doing all of our voodoo magic to try and keep it around. But we are at Lucid Lab Podcast, all one word.
In the meantime and always,
stay lucid.
Goodbye.
Bye.